Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
And that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to the Best Seat in the House podcast. I'm your host, Rob Cramer, joined by me, as always, alongside Daniel Bobo Kurlan. And we're being featured with a very nice guest this week, my cousin, actually, Michael Christadora. Mike, thanks for joining us, buddy.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Now, we're reprising a little show we did last year for my other podcast, my old podcast, Coffee with Kramer, where we did our 2021 MLB predictions and all that stuff. And okay, we had our hits and misses last year. You know, whoever, I thought the Minnesota Twins were going to win, you know, the Central last year, and they went out and completely shit the bed. But you know, everybody's gonna, you know, you're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some on these, but it's really just to have some fun and sit here and look in depth and see things that have changed in baseball this year, and so many guys on new teams. You know, before we really get into it, actually, I'll start with you, Dan. Aside from the Mets, obviously, because you know me and you are going to be focusing on the Mets. Aside from the Mets, what player in a new place or a new you know, situation, a new surrounding, new city, new team, what guy most intrigues you that's in a new place this year?
I think Carlos Correa intrigues me this year.
No doubt about it. And, you know, that might be something that could tilt the scales in the Twins' favor, possibly. We'll see what we're thinking in a couple of minutes here. But how about you, Mike? Who do you have your eye on right now in a new place?
Well, I'm not going to go with the obvious with Freddie Freeman. I think everyone was a little shocked with that, but I'm going to go with one of my personal favorite players, Chris Bryant, with Colorado. You know, I since he's been in the league, he's been one of my favorite players. So I liked him as the Giants, didn't want him to leave. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do with Colorado, I think.
No doubt about it. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch him in that ballpark.
Absolutely.
You know, you see that guy has double power to the gaps. Obviously, he's got home run power too.
Oh,
but
yeah.
He's one of those, you know, I could see him having, you know, maybe not every year of this 7-year contract, but I could see him having at least 1 or 2 50 double seasons in that ballpark.
I was just telling someone that earlier today. I think so. I think minimum he's having 40 this season.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. His home runs might tick down a little bit, but those extra base hits are going to keep piling up, and that batting average, you know, especially in that ballpark, you could launch anything in that ballpark.
Oh yeah, everything flies out there.
That's a beautiful park too. Have you ever been there before?
No, never have. I've only been to the Yankees, Mets, and Seattle Mariners. Haven't made it to any other fields yet. I've been to more football stadiums than baseball.
We got to change that for you, kid. We got to get to some other place. We got to.
I know it. It's the goal this year. That's the goal.
Yeah, true. That's true. How about you, Dan? You ever been to Colorado?
I haven't been to Colorado yet, but hopefully one of these years, hopefully it times out well that the Mets are playing in a time of year that doesn't get freezing cold, because that's the thing with Colorado. If I'm going to do an away game trip to Colorado, I'm going to know in advance and look at, as soon as the schedule is released, I'm going to see the time of year the Mets are going to be in town, and not probably going to want to make that trip when it's freezing cold, similar to how I potentially make a trip to Wrigley Field. Like if I was to go on a road at Wrigley Field this year, I don't know if I'll be able to pull that one off, but if I were, I see this year it's going to be at a time of year the weather is going to be good.
Very true. Very true. And I'll tell you right now what really surprised me, actually. I've been to Coors Field. I actually went in September of 2019. I saw the Mets and the Rockies play a 3-game set. I went to all 3 games.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I loved it. And Coors Field has always been one of my favorite parks, a destination park that I really always wanted to go to ever since I was a kid. And I actually got the chance to see Pete Alonso hit his
Oh,
50th
wow.
home run when I was out there. He hit number 50 out there. And
Oh,
but the what's
and
that?
I also got to say a little bit of fact about every stadium I've been to. I collect the ice cream bowls from each stadium I've been to.
My friend Nicole
Oh,
does that. She
yeah,
doesn't even like
that's a really cool thing. You get those hats and all those places. I think everybody has a little something they like to keep from a lot of the games and stuff they've been to. Some
I
people
keep
it's ticket stubs or
Yep,
what were you
that's
saying,
what
Mike?
I keep the ticket stubs, even for movie theaters. But my friend Nicole, my friend Nicole, she doesn't even like baseball, but she went with her brother to every stadium, like I don't know, 2018, I think it was, and that's what she did, the ice cream bowls. So
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
to her, that was like she couldn't care less on the games. To her, again, the ice cream bowl was like the home run of the day.
I thought it'd be a nice little thing to one day make a display. Once I've done all 30, I'll have a display with every ice cream bowl. I also got the ticket stubs. I got like a little I got but I also have a book with a ticket stub from each stadium I've been to. Unfortunately, it's a little bit difficult these days because the way they do ticketing nowadays. But at
Yeah.
one that book there'd be like a ticket stub from each stadium I've been to.
Yeah, that's one
These
thing that really sucks about like the newer way of doing things. Like you know, just like you said, I have so many ticket stubs from over the years, so like a ridiculous amount
Oh,
of ticket stubs.
same
Even my
way.
spring, like even the spring training games that I went to over the years and everything. I usually keep all of them, concerts and all that stuff. But now with these digital tickets and stuff, that might become a thing of the past. I don't even think they're really giving out like actual printed tickets anymore, are they?
know the Mets sort of do the printed tickets. Like if you like I noticed last year I went to because I didn't at that time I didn't feel like paying the ticket fees and I was happened to be in a Flushing area because I was running an errand in Flushing.
Mm-hmm.
I went to decide to just you know what, why wait till I get home to buy these tickets if I'm gonna go buy these tickets today. Skip the ticket fee and just buy it in person. So I went to the ticket window to buy the ticket in person. And if you were buying a ticket at the ticket window at the box office, they gave me a paper ticket. It
Wow.
happened that one time I bought during the whole year. I bought a ticket from the box office.
Really? Ah, so
First,
Now we know the inside
that
secret.
that's a
and
little
I
life hack.
and
Yeah.
I Cyclones are still doing the paper tickets and the printout tickets because I bought a ticket for the Cyclones home opener on April 12th, and I had to print that out. It's going to be a bit of an unusual baseball season for one thing. The Cyclones are a full season league now, so they're starting their season in April. They're high A now instead of short season A ball. But I'm also potentially going to be attending a minor league game because it falls before the Mets home opener before I attend a major league game this year. That's a bit of an odd thing this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
I
doubt
wish
about it, man.
I wish
What
you
you say,
guys were
Mike?
with me the other day, a couple of weeks ago. So the new Batman movie, and like I said, I keep my stubs, and the way I keep them is if I liked the films, sports, I'll keep them no matter what. But they didn't give me a stub in the beginning, and I kind of like made a big deal about it. And all my friends were like, "Cool, what does it matter?" I was like, "I keep the stubs." I was like, "That's how I know, like if I like it." And same thing. I can go back from the '90s with movies as a kid. I still have in sports. Uh, but the last same thing. I know Michigan Wolverines for college football. They're still very adamant about giving ticket stubs. So my friend went last year and he said that they're still very adamant about giving the stubs. It gives you the option. So I'm like, okay, at least they get it. Yeah.
Very cool. And as a Notre Dame fan, that's the one thing I can say I like about Michigan right now. So,
Yeah.
but all right, boys. So we came in a little hot right now. We didn't get a chance. I feel like I didn't properly give us our introductions. So uh, obviously my co-host Daniel Bobo Kurlan. Dan, throw you a couple of your plugs out, your Twitter, your Instagram.
Of course, you can follow me on my Twitter at Bobo103NYC on Twitter. I'm also Bobo718DK on Instagram, and it's one word, Daniel Kurlan on YouTube.
That's right. And how about you? This is our guest today, Michael Christadora. Give a couple of your plugs, buddy.
Pretty simple. Mike underscore Christadora for both Facebook and Instagram. And then me, I took a little break on the podcast world, but with you guys' help, I'm going to be jumping back into it now. So it's critic Christadora underscore 631 for both Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So
Check out Critic Christadora too, because very interesting stuff you have on there with a lot of the music and stuff that Spotify, because it's a podcast through Spotify.
correct, yeah.
That so you're allowed to have a lot of this music and stuff. So really cool stuff Mike has on there. So feel free to check that out. No problem, man. And we'll be putting the plugs on the bottom too, so everybody can check that out at your leisure. And of course, I'm Rob Cramer. You can check me out at Cramer NY on Twitter. You can check out our podcast on Twitter at BSith. That's Best Seat in the House _ podcast. And it's also on Instagram at Best Seat in the House podcast. We got a lot of fun things on there. Twitter polls, Trivia Tuesdays, all that fun stuff. So check that out. Also check out our YouTube where we have all our past shows, and all of our shows come out on Apple iTunes and Spotify and anywhere you get your podcasts to. So now that we have all that crap out of the way, let's get into the fun stuff, fellas. Let's get into some Major League Baseball 2022 predictions. Really going to be a fun season for a lot of reasons. Let's kick it off with the AL East. Now, what we're going to be doing, too, is we're going to be going one at a time, giving our predictions, and then I'll give, since we put out polls over the last 24 hours on Instagram and Twitter, which I know both of you have seen. And we'll be just comparing the results just to see what, what the internet and what our audience is thinking too, see how it lines up with us. So fellas, let's kick it off. We'll start with Mr. Daniel Bobo Kurlan. Daniel, for the American League East, who is your predicted winner?
I'm going to go with the predict that Tampa's going to win the AL East. They seem to have a nice little young team that's building to probably go another which is always an uphill climb, making the playoffs 3 years in a row. It looks like they might be pulling out one off this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, hey, this is a team too that was just in the World Series. In 2020, this is a team that had a great regular season last year. So you're definitely not coming out of left field with this one. The Rays are a hell of a team. Can't really disagree with you on that. And Mike, how are you feeling about that?
I think we're all going 3 for 3. I have Tampa as well. I just like how, we all know with their rotation, they're going to use 8 different arms, which I think is pretty cool. And you can't ever go runs with Corey Kluber. So I'm with you guys. I think they're going to win the division easily. I won't say easily. Yeah, that's why I just realized. I'm not going to say easily, but I think they're going to win.
Well, I wasn't even correcting you. What I was going to say is that I actually disagree with you guys. I was just agreeing with Bo that, that's for the most part, you can't argue with Tampa Bay. They're hell of a team, hell of a manager. They've been great. Now, let me ask you a question. You just said you thought you think where I'm going. Who do you think my prediction for 2022 is?
Well, I think your number 1 is going to be my number 2. Toronto?
Toronto is who I got.
Yeah.
When I look at this roster, I was so impressed with what they did last year. They still won 91 games. Heartbreaking way to end the year. I mean, hell of a season, 91-71, and they just got screwed because you had 4, heavyweights in that AL East last year with Tampa Bay winning it, the Yankees and the Red Sox playing in that great wild card game. And Toronto was on the outside looking in. But when I look at this team and I see what they've added, and sure, I think losing a guy like Semien is going to hurt, because now he's over in Texas. So that's definitely going to hurt, no doubt about it. But when you look at guys like Bichette, and, I know he doesn't get a lot of love anymore. Biggio is still he's still a nice, useful player they have. Obviously, you got to love Guerrero Jr., and then they go out and trade for Matt Chapman from Oakland, which, holy crap. You add that guy to this team, it really just reminds me of the Josh Donaldson trade from almost a decade ago at this point, when Toronto went out and acquired Josh Donaldson from Oakland in a similar A's selling off season, and him and Batista teamed up and took them to back
Mhm.
ALCS.
That
I
was fun to
really
watch.
it was that those teams were a lot of fun.
I was a
As a matter
Yankees
of
fan. It
fact,
was fun to watch.
I was really keeping my fingers crossed that when the Mets were in the World Series in 2015, I really wanted to see Toronto as the opponent instead of the Royals, because you just saw the Royals were just one of those teams that even with as great pitchers as the Mets had, that was just a contact team making, you couldn't get anything past them. Toronto was a big strikeout, team, so I thought that matched up well. Didn't work out that way, as the Blue Jays got knocked out back-to-back years in the ALCS. The first year by Kansas City, the second year by Cleveland. But as we fast forward to this year now, I just think adding Matt Chapman makes such a big difference. And another thing, what a lot of people forget is that Toronto added Kevin Gossman in the offseason too. Now you add that to their rotation, which already has guys like Ryu in there and everything, and it's tough for me to pick against them. I think Toronto is the team that's going to lock down the AL East this year. So,
I definitely give you. Oh, sorry. I definitely give you credit for it because, like I said, Tampa. I wrote literally like 2 lines for Tampa, but I wrote half a page just keep myself fresh on Toronto. So I even wrote at the bottom. I might be wrong, but I'm sticking with it. I mean, even like Kevin Viegel too. Like, you're not everything you said. You're not wrong. So I just think I'm just gonna go with kind of history, and Bobo said it perfectly too earlier. So I could be wrong on this one, but good pick. Good pick.
All right. And we'll keep moving on here. We got the AL Central now. So Dan, why don't you kick us off? Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Before we move on, let's do what what our audience also thought real quick. They also agreed with you guys, as the Tampa Bay Rays got 42% between Twitter and Instagram, 42%. 28 was the Blue Jays getting second. Then the Yankees came in at 20.5, and the Red Sox brought up the rear at 9%. So, it seems like most of the people agreed with you guys that Tampa Bay is still the king of the mountain until they get knocked off. So with that, we'll move on to the AL Central. And Dan, sorry I interrupted you before. Let's move on. Who do you pick for the AL Central winner?
I think the Twins is probably going to slightly edge out the White Sox. I feel this one's going to be a close one, probably between those two teams.
I mean, you definitely got those two teams. I definitely agree with that. What do you like most? What do you like the additions of Gary Sanchez and Sonny Gray and things like that, and obviously Correa?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. The Twins made a nice little additions, especially some players that have experience in a postseason and being on contenders. That I think probably might help be able to get the players, hopefully get some of the younger players to be a bit more calmer, get acclimated to what it is like to be on a contender.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that, man. I mean, especially with the guys that we just mentioned, and Gio Urshela too, who improves that defense. If you add that to, they got guys like Sano and Buxton there, that's going to be a pretty powerful team, no doubt about that. And Mike, what are your thoughts?
I think I put Minnesota number 2. I totally agree with what you guys said with Urshela, Sanchez, and Correa. But to me, the Twins, their offense has never been the issue, especially in the recent years. It's their rotation. Just every time I look at them, I'm like, is that a rotation that's going to push them over the edge? And I don't think it will. That's why I put them second. I put Chicago above. They didn't really do anything different this offseason, but I think they're going to win the division. I think so.
I actually concur with you. That's who I picked too. I think the White Sox, just like we said with Tampa Bay, I think that the White Sox are still king of the mountain. I think the Twins did a lot to improve their standing, no doubt about it. Everything we mentioned, the Twins, were a really crappy team last year. They're not going to be this year. They're going to be in the mix. They're going to be playing meaningful games after the trade deadline, no doubt about it. Now, do they have enough firepower to contend for the full year? Just like you said, I'm skeptical about the rotation. They're still trying to run guys like Michael Pineda out there and, and convince you that guy is going to be good for 30 starts. I won't believe it until I see it. But the one thing I will say is, it's tough for me to bet against, you have guys on the Chicago White Sox team like Jose Abreu, who is just a monster. They still have, I'm pretty sure that Craig Kimbrell is still in their bullpen. They still have Lucas Giolito in that rotation. And then not to mention, the Hall of Fame manager, Tony La Russa. So even though I like, I believe Rocco Baldelli is the former Tampa Bay Devil Ray is the Minnesota manager. And I do like Rocco, but it's, with Tony La Russa is one of the best of all time. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it's tough to beat against that. But what I will say is that I was very surprised that the internet disagreed with our love of Chicago and went with Dan's pick, the Minnesota Twins. 47%, almost half of the respondents that we got on Instagram and Twitter said that the Minnesota Twins are going to turn it around this year and win the division. So very, very impressed. Very, very surprised too with the people loving the Twins so much. What's that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, just with the poll, that's very interesting. I did not see them coming, actually.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So we'll keep moving on, and we'll do the AL West now. Dan, we'll start with you again. Who is your pick for the AL West champion?
I have a feeling Houston's probably gonna win this. They just got too much experience, and they just got so much swagger about it that they seem to got a hang on it, being in that spotlight, that contending spotlight.
Yeah, it's really when you say it like that, the Astros have really been a perennial contender since that first year they broke through again with Dallas Keuchel having that great year, playing the Yankees in the wild card game.
Yeah, that hurt.
That was a tough one. Yeah, especially that 2015 Yankees team was a likable team. I mean, not for me, but
for me.
I'm sure for Yankee fans. I mean, that was the great year where the Beltran had with you guys, and A-Rod, having his resurgence, hitting 30+ home runs that year. Tanaka still, sticking around.
Hit a home run, A-Rod too. First pitch back. Yeah. I remember that.
You're right. I remember Joe Beningo predicting that he was. Joe Beningo said coming into that season that A-Rod is going to hit 30 and drive in 100. And he didn't drive in 100. It was 33 and 86, but damn, he was close.
Yeah.
So Dan, you kicked us off with the Houston Astros. And Mike, how do you feel about that?
You guys are going to probably disagree with me. And I think the internet will totally disagree with me, but I went with winning and making their first playoff appearance in 2 decades, the Seattle Mariners. Now, I could be a little biased coming from Seattle now that I'm back in New York, but I don't know. I think the front office is serious about this. They were only 5 games back of Houston last year, too. So I just think the Mariners are going to be a good surprise. I mean, they trade for Adam Frazier, Suarez, Jesse Winker, and Robbie Ray, the Cy Young Award winner last year. So I think they're going to, I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be super close because, like you said, it's Houston and they've just been running that division. But I don't know. I think the Mariners, and I went with a little bit kind of like a bold pick there, but I think the Mariners are going to pull it out, which first time maybe ever in my life I'm ever saying the Mariners.
Yeah. I mean, hey, the last time, just like you said, it's been literally 2 decades. The last time the Mariners made the playoffs was the 116 win season in Ichiro's rookie season.
Yeah.
That now let's put that in perspective. Ichiro was 27 in his rookie season. He's 45 now. So
Wow.
it's been a long time since the Astros, I'm sorry, since the Seattle Mariners made the playoffs. But I don't mind that pick, especially like you said, they had a bunch of under the radar moves with Winker and Eugenio Suarez and Robbie Ray too. That people forget about that.
Mhm.
You know, not to mention there's a bunch of young guys on that team they got coming up through the pipeline, guys that hopefully aren't going to keep me and Bobo awake at night, where we have to worry about Jared Kalanick becoming the next MVP from there. We're still tearing our hair out watching Edwin Diaz come in relief.
Every time I see Jericho Lanek do well, it just makes me want to just curse at Fred Wilpon.
You know, you guys gave your picks with the Astros for Dan, Mariners for Mike. For me, I agree with Dan. I'm picking the Houston Astros. I think it's tough to pick against them. Also, I'm a big Dusty Baker fan. Dusty always seems to get the most out of his teams. Especially when it comes to guys like motivating the veterans and getting the most out of your young guys. And just seems like Dusty Baker has a really good touch with that kind of stuff. Who knows what they're going to get out of Verlander this year, but it's going to be something. They're going to get some kind of production out of Justin Verlander. And as long as you get him right by the time August and September roll around, you're headed into October, then the Astros are going to be a serious, serious threat to not only win that division, but win the World Series, obviously. Since
I still can't believe they lost Correa, though. I'm shocked on that.
Me too. I thought Correa was coming back. I was, definitely shocked.
Mhm.
No doubt about that. And just to wrap that up, the internet also agrees with me and Dan as the Houston Astros got 63% of the online vote. Believe it or not, Mike, you were not only in the in the minority of people that don't think that the Mariners are going to win. Apparently, according to our online poll, and I don't even know how this is possible, it actually came up as the Mariners with -0.5%.
Well, that's my sleeper pick, I guess. If they would make the win the division, I'm gonna be like, woo.
That's true. Maybe it gets
-1 pick.
And now that sports betting is legal in New York, maybe make a couple of bucks off it.
Exactly, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so with that, we'll move on to the National League, as we'll do the National League East. Danny, we'll start off with you. Who do you pick for the National League East champion 2022?
I have a feeling the Mets are going to win this one in a very close. I feel it's going to be a very close one with Philly this year. And it could go down to the last week of the season.
First of all, I'm shocked that you're picking the Mets. I mean, that definitely surprises me. But you know what? And I'll jump out of order here too, just because I'll agree with you because I picked the Mets too. Now, just to show that I consider myself a journalist, and I don't. Although I guess that word journalist has been dragged through the mud the last couple of years anyway. But I'm gonna say I consider myself bipartisan because last year I picked the Atlanta Braves to win the division. Even though I was high on the Mets, I thought the Mets were going to have a good year. I expected them to make the playoffs. I did not think they had enough to overcome the Braves. This year, on the other hand, I think, you have a real leader on the Mets right now, Max Scherzer, a guy who's going to light a fire under all these guys' asses. And not only that, the Mets have the best manager that they have had in the dugout probably since Bobby Valentine. And that's not a shot at, guys like Willie Randolph, who had a very good run with the Mets, and even Terry Collins, who was great with the Mets. I think that Buck Showalter is just on a different level. He looks at the game from such a interesting perspective and has such a wealth of knowledge about baseball in general. So I can't wait to see him
Yep.
managing
And
this Mets team.
What works for the Mets just walked up to Buck Showalter and suggested they switch to cotton uniforms this year.
Mattingly just split his pants.
Good old George Costanza.
Yeah.
Seinfeld episode when George is suggesting that to the manager of the Yankees. That guy was none other than Buck Showalter in that episode.
Yep.
Exactly. And as long as as long as the Mets don't have Pete Alonso running down and splitting his pants at first base, I think we'll be pretty good.
Yep.
And so we'll move on to you, Mike. Now, too, we got the two resident Met fans in the house picking the Mets. Who do you got your eye on the NL East?
Well, to start, I'm so glad that I'm actually last because I was going to say I want to change the order because all year last year, this division bothered me because I'm pulling a page out of your book. Last year, first time in my entire life, I put the Mets first, and I went all into the hype, and they failed me. So I was getting so mad. So this year, like I said, I pulled a page out of your book because now I have Atlanta first. I actually have the Mets third in this division. I think this is going to be a very tough division, but I think it's all hype. I think it's all peanut but no shell. I think this whole division is going to be I have the Phillies just above a little 500 at second. The Mets, I think, going to be under them. And I have Atlanta. I think they're going to steadily win. And I don't even think they're winning the World Series. I don't think they're repeating. So I have Atlanta. That's my long-winded answer for number one.
Atlanta. Oh, now,
Yeah.
I like the Atlanta love, too, because let's not forget, like you said, Atlanta's the defending World Series champions. They have, they added Matt Olson, who is beyond legitimate. The guy is an awesome player. He's a very young player. He's from the Atlanta area. I'm just kind of thinking that I think Atlanta is going to have a little bit of a World Series hangover.
I do agree.
I could see that happening. Maybe it's wishful thinking too a little bit, but I'm not impressed with the Phillies. The Phillies pitching stinks. They're bringing in guys like Jerry Familia to pitch. Outside of Zach Wheeler, I'm not impressed with the Phillies rotation. I'm not impressed with the Phillies bullpen.
Exactly where I wrote. And I like Nola too.
Nola's good, but you know what though, as a guy who I've had Nola on my fantasy team the last couple of years, Nola seems like one of those guys that he's either going to go out and throw 8 innings and allow 1 run, or he's going to throw 4 2/3 and allow 6. And
You're not wrong.
He walks a lot of guys at times, and now Nola has had some pretty good full seasons in his career, no doubt about that. I'm not taking that away from the guy, but I don't know. I haven't seen him put together a run like that. If he had a really good run and the Phillies had Wheeler at full, 100% and Nola going 100% too, that might be a different story. But I don't believe that. But just to get back to the Mets for a second too, I understand what you're saying with your diagnosis. Oh, it's all, it's all shell, no peanut type thing. I get it. Totally get it. Because that's what it was last year for the Mets. But I think the difference is that the Mets added, I think people are going to be shocked at the difference that now, this is a name a lot of people aren't going to expect me to say right now, but Eduardo Escobar is going to make a gigantic difference on this Mets offense. Mark my words. If the Mets are in first place, or even if they're not, if they're just in the mix and it's July right now, guys like me and Dan are going to be looking at each other saying, where the hell would this team be without Eduardo Escobar? He's a switch hitter. He's got power. He's clutch. And he's a type of guy that plays pretty good defense. He's pretty steady on there. And he just knows how to hit. He's a guy that can hit in clutch situations. So watch out for Eduardo Escobar, and also flying under the radar, Chris Bassett.
Well, I think you're 100% right. And I even wrote that as my last note. I wrote Escobar, Kanye, and Marte, all good bats. So I just think that's going to be how tough this division is. But even though I'm lowering the hype, I think you're 100% right. I think you hit the nail on the coffin there. I don't think I can't buy into the Mets this year. And you had said earlier about Scherzer, 100% right. He is going to, I know the positions won't match up, but to me, I feel like he might be the Yankees' Paul O'Neill when they got him in the 90s. Yep. How the Warrior, this guy's going to be, in the dugout. He wasn't the best player. I mean, he had some great years, but he definitely was the flame of the team. I think Scherzer is definitely going to be that. So I don't disagree. I just all year couldn't wait to talk about this specific division. So
Mike, that was a great point though with Paul O'Neill. Really love that point. Makes a lot of sense too. I think that Scherzer is the type of guy that is exactly the Paul O'Neill. He's the type of guy that'll kick the shit out of a water cooler if he really has to.
I'm looking forward to seeing it on the TV too. Hopefully the broadcasters don't hide away from it.
No doubt about it. I want to see both of those eyes, no matter how angry they are. So
Yep, that was weird eye situation reminds me of the weird of almost my sister, because she has an unusual eye situation too. She's got like a split color on one of her eyes.
really?
Wow.
Yeah, she's got a split color on one of her eyes.
Wow, very interesting. Very interesting. I had one friend growing up that had that, but I never knew it was like an actual like thing that other people had. I thought it was just him.
Yeah, I've never met anyone. I've never encountered that.
Yeah. But oh yeah, so just to finish up on the NL East here, on our internet poll also across Instagram and Twitter, the Mets actually dominated this poll, which kind of surprised me too. I thought Atlanta was going to get more love, but the Mets had a whopping, which is the highest percentage across the league. 68% of respondents thought or think that the Mets are going to win this division. So very interesting. It also followed up by Philadelphia and then Atlanta after that. So that's even more surprising to me that they had Philly finishing above Atlanta. So very interesting. But before we move on, actually, Mike, you had a point you wanted to make about the AL East.
Yeah. So I was thinking with the new 12-team expansion expanded for the playoffs. I actually think the AL East is going to be the toughest. And last year we had 3 teams in the playoffs. I think this year in 2022 we're going to have all 4 wildcard teams being the AL East. That's just my opinion. I want to see what you guys kind of thought about that since it's kind of new. I think I'm very curious to see if it goes down with that, because that would be insane to see in one division.
That would be insane. I don't know. I think one of the teams, I think either the Yankees or Red Sox are gonna miss this year. And I could see it being the Red Sox, actually. I think the Red Sox could have added more. Who knows what they're going to get out of Chris Sale. I like Story going there, but, offense has never really been their problem anyway. I don't know. I think either the Yankees or Toronto will miss, and Boston will miss, and more likely Boston. But it's also not out of the question either. I'm not saying that. I definitely think there's a good possibility. You're right about that. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I have a feeling that Boston might barely miss the playoffs. As shocking like that is. They seem to always go through this stretch where they have a couple of years that are good, and then they've gone through some rebuild, and somehow they managed to pull off a successful rebuild.
Yeah, they always turn it around very quickly. You got to give it to them.
Unfortunately, I hate Boston, being a Yankees fan, and this is going to sound even crazier. Me being a Yankees fan, I actually think the Yankees are going to do worse than Boston this year. I mean, as a diehard Yankee fan, I'm actually extremely miserable with them right now, being a 90s spoiled brat. So every year I'm just getting more and more frustrated. But didn't realize how great of a thing. I thought it was so easy, World Series. So I definitely condemn you guys. Yeah. But I actually think I have the Yankees 4th and the Boston 3rd. And I think all of them are going to win 90 games or more. So that's just my pick. Yeah. But
it's definitely a possibility, man. No doubt about that. Nobody could call you crazy for thinking that. It's a very, very distinct possibility. So with that, we'll move on and we'll do the NL Central. The NL Central. Dan, we'll start with you. Who do you like in the NL Central? Who's your pick?
I have a feeling that the Cardinals are probably going to win a very close NL Central with Milwaukee. This one.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Not bad. The Cardinals are a great team. Milwaukee has been right in the thick of things the last couple of years. Yeah, definitely not outlandish. Mike, what do you think?
Um, I completely agree how close it's going to be. I flip flopped with him. I put Milwaukee one just with Corbin Burns, the Cy Young Award winner, and they have other candidates that are Cy Young Award candidates like Woodruff and Peralta and stuff. So I think it's going to be very close and very tight. But I flip flopped with Dan and put them on Milwaukee one and St. Louis two.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. It's like you said, it's kind of hard to bet. They got a hell of a pitching staff up there. The guys don't go deep into games, but they're pretty good, and especially you got a guy like Hader there in the back end of the bullpen. That kind of cleans up any messes that you have if you guys aren't going deep into games anyway. And if they get in, if they, I think the big thing for me is actually, now that I really think about it, because I picked the Cardinals. I I like Arenado, and I like Goldschmidt. Wainwright coming back for this last year, I think, is highly motivated and still very effective pitcher. I think they're primed for a good year down in St. Louis, but the one thing I think that could hold them up, even if everything clicks right for the Cardinals this year, if Milwaukee gets an MVP type season out of Christian Yelich,
The pick last year.
yeah, if this guy gets a 2018 version of Christian Yelich walks through that door and he's hitting 320 and he's hitting 30 plus home runs and he's driving 100 plus runs, then I think Milwaukee's going to lock this division up, no problem. But I'm still not convinced that Yelich is going to be healthy all year. So that's the main reason why I think the Cardinals pick up the scraps and win this division.
See, I find that interesting because I agree with you. I don't think him, or I always say his name wrong, Houston Hiora. I think him and Yelich will both not be as what they were. But I picked Milwaukee really for their pitching rotation. I actually think they have the best in baseball. I know a lot of people, you guys might say, Scherzer and DeGrom 1-2. I think that's the best 1-2. But I think a complete rotation, I mean, I got to go with Milwaukee.
Well, I think with Bassett in the Mets rotation, if there was no Bassett, I'd agree with you. But with Bassett, I think I think the Mets still have a better rotation. They were actually just voted on MLB Network the best rotation in baseball, for whatever that's worth.
I think I'm still.
Network doesn't have the same track record as Sports Illustrated, because I get nervous when I see the Mets on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're right about that.
I think it might be worse than the history of the Madden NFL cover.
Yeah, that Madden curse is pretty weird, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, so you were saying, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's some good guys, but I'll still take Hauser and Lauer and Ashby too. I just think I think it's no hatred against the Mets because I was all about them last year, but I think their rotation is just a little better. And speaking of covers, I remember when Derek Jeter did the Sports Illustrator with the 4 rings, he had his 4 fingers. And me being a kid thinking it's the coolest thing ever. And my dad actually threw it on the ground. It was like, what is he doing? It's the curse. I was like, what are you talking about? Not knowing any of it. He goes, no, you don't do that. And then sure enough, they lost to the Diamondbacks that year. So
yeah,
it is weird. Sports and their superstition. I'm not a superstitious guy, but with sports, I am.
Yeah, it's tough not to be, especially when you're a sports fan. You got it in your head, no matter what you do. I mean, when I was a kid, if I was sitting in a certain place on the couch, or just certain things like that. Oh, I ate this on the last time the Mets won. Oh no, I can't eat this today. That type of crazy thing. You always get that with us wacky sports fans. But
you don't mess with the streak. Whatever works, you keep doing.
Exactly.
I have a habit of giving Mr. Malunigan a belly rub before the game.
There we go.
There you go.
Now, did you do that tonight for the Rangers game?
Yep, I did that, of course.
Well, there we go. And you see it's 3-3 right now.
Oh shit! We
I
did.
believe
Yeah. I was
I'm,
about this. First time this is the first episode you're seeing me during when an actual game is happening. So
I think
so the Twitter world is getting a reaction to me during a Rangers game.
I believe
Where are they playing right now?
they're playing Detroit right now, the Red Wings in Detroit, and it's 3-3 in the second period. I believe it was Artemi Panarin just scored the game tying goal. So we'll keep an eye on that. There's 5 minutes left in the second period.
We have Dan watching the game. You're wearing the shirt. I should have been wearing some Rangers. Clearly, I'm the missing link here.
And we'll touch on hockey for a couple of minutes at the end real quick, but this is a baseball themed episode, so we'll wrap up with this last division. But before I get there, actually, I want to give the results of the internet polls, as the St. Louis Cardinals handily won it, surprisingly 53%. Only 25 for Milwaukee finished second, so very surprising. I was surprised there's actually people who voted for the Chicago Cubs too, so
Wow.
whatever that's worth. I guess they really like Andrelton Simmons as the new shortstop over there instead of Javi Baez.
Probably, I think they have the most dominated version of pizza, which they don't.
Yeah, really. Let's get that. Let's put that out there. Sorry, Chicago, you have good pizza, but it's not as good as ours. It's not.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
It was like bread with, I don't know, sort of cheese and sauce, but it seemed bread heavy.
Yeah, it's like eating pizza cake.
Yeah.
I don't even know how else to describe it.
Anytime I think of Chicago, I think of Ferris Bueller, skipping school and catching the ball next to Cameron. That's what I think of.
Yeah, going to the Cubs game, riding the car, and not to mention dancing in the parade to the Beatles' Twist and Shout.
One of my favorite songs by them.
Oh, you gotta love that song, by the way. One day we'll have to do like a Beatles podcast or something like that.
Oh yeah, I could talk hours about them.
Me too. I've been listening to the Beatles channel on Sirius XM nonstop lately. I can't.
Oh,
it's the best. I just got like one of those trials again, and I can't stop listening to it. I love it every time I turn it on. So
great channel.
So with that, we'll take it to our last division of the day, the National League West. Dan, we'll start with you. Who do you have? Do you have the Giants winning over 100 again? Do you have the Dodgers taking back the division? How do you feel about the National League West?
I have a feeling that the Dodgers are going to win a very close National League West. I feel you got San Francisco, which is probably going to have a good year, and you got Los Angeles. Looks like they're gonna have their typical year. It's gonna be a neck and neck one. I think this one will go to the last week of the season, and the Dodgers are gonna slightly edge out.
I mean, you can't argue with that. That's pretty much what happened last year, except the reverse ending where they kept it close all year, and somehow you had a division where one team won 107 games and the other team won 106 games, and that's one of the most insane division.
That playoff series was amazing, though.
It really was. It's a shame it couldn't have been a 7-gamer, though.
Oh, I know.
But I wish it was the old playoff format where if you're in the same division, you can't meet in the first round. But now with this little wild card series, you really can't do that anymore. But so we'll move on to Mike. Who do you want, or who do you think is going to win the National League West?
Unfortunately, I chose the Dodgers, and I'm actually very critical on the Dodgers. I'm like a sore loser, but also really happy when they lose because I love the San Francisco Giants. It's one of the few sports where usually I'm like, I will respect other teams, but I usually have one team and that's it. But I love the Giants. Like, I'm so mad because last year, for the first time in like a decade, every year I was putting them number one, and I finally didn't put them last year. And here they go, won 107 games. So that bothered me too. But I agree. I think it's going to be super close. And it really hurts me losing Buster Posey to retirement, one of my favorite catchers. I have him in the top 10 of catchers of all time. I don't remember if it was 302 or 320, one of the two, him batting last year. And so that's going to be hurtful to them. And then, like I mentioned earlier, them losing Chris Bryant. But I have them number 2. But I'm really curious to see their top prospect, Joey Bart, come in. I'm really hoping, I'm not expecting him to be a Posey, but if he can bat, 285 his first year, 280, I'll be very happy. So I think it's gonna be close, but I have the Dodgers just squeaking out the San Francisco Giants.
Hey, I mean, like we said, they both had great seasons last year. So definitely can't fault you for going with the Dodgers. I'm gonna make this the only in our last division. It's a clean sweep. We all picked the Dodgers. But unlike you guys, actually, I'm not as high on the Giants. I think the Giants are going to take a couple of steps back this year. I think you mentioned part of it, losing a guy. Like, I think everything clicked right for the Giants last year. Every switch they flipped, every player they depended on, every break they needed, everything broke their way. Now, losing an MVP caliber guy, like you said, one of the best catchers. I mean, especially the guy's got, 3 World Series rings, hell of a player, probably a future Hall of Famer for a catcher. His numbers, he dealt with a lot of injuries, but I think just the pure success he had, he's probably a future Hall of Famer. But you know what, though? Evan Longoria, is he retired? What's his deal this year? I think they got a nice year out of him last year. Who knows what you're going to get this year? Just like you said, Joey Bart too. Putting your hopes into a rookie catcher, especially one, even one as highly regarded as Bart is always a little iffy. And not to mention too, they lost Kevin Gossman, who I think the Giants have done a good job at bringing in guys too. Like they brought back Wood. They brought in a bunch of potential starters and everything, but I think losing Gossman's going to hurt big time, more than people are expecting. Look, I think the Giants are still going to be a decent team next year. Like, I think the Giants could still win 88 to 92 games. It's just not going to be 107, and I think the Dodgers are still a 100-win team.
Yes, it's hard for me to argue with that. I don't think you're wrong. Going back to last year's playoffs too, I gotta say, in a long time, that might have been my favorite series, a playoff series in years, without being biased to the Yankees and the World Series. Excuse me. But I remember being away in Washington, my father being in New York with a 3-hour time difference, and him working and me working. And it was just so cool. I felt like I was a kid again. Like, I'd be watching the game the same time he is on the phone. And we would have to wait sometimes. I'm like, oh, I'm still working late. Don't watch the game, because I didn't want him to know what would happen without hearing it, and vice versa. Yeah. So I just hope, I'm not expecting the Giants, like you said, to have 107 wins, but I just hope just that competitive rivalriness, if it can still somehow be close. To me, I want to see, like, I thought it was literally every game last year, even before the playoffs, it was like neck and neck. So I just want to see that again. I don't care what the numbers are. If it could just be those two teams just battling it out, that's what I'm hoping for.
That's true. That's true. As long as it's a good, competitive, fun year, that's really all you need. And just to finish up here, we got a couple of last little things to get to, and that we got our picks out of the way. The one thing I will throw out there is for the internet poll, our last one of the day. We're gonna do the Cy Young and MVP and World Series winner real quick, but I didn't do a poll for that just because those are such open-ended questions. It's kind of tough to hammer those down. But for the West, the Dodgers beat the Giants. They had 38%. The Giants had 35%. And believe it or not, the San Diego Padres were getting a lot of love at 21%.
They were my
Padres,
number 3.
yeah, the Padres were a trendy pick last year, but they kind of are hanging below the surface this year after the crappy finish, just much like the Mets. The Mets and the Padres had a very, very similar trajectory last year.
Yeah, but here also to start the season, Fernando Tatis Jr. is injured.
Very, very, very good point, bro. That's 100% true. And he's going to be out for 3 months.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The guy's like the heart and soul of that offense.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. He's like for especially All-Star weekend and stuff. He's like the heart and soul for a lot of the National League and these young guys right now. So very tough to see, especially if you like to see these young players and everything.
I don't know if they're going to handle that collapse like you guys were saying last season. Because I literally was thinking the same thing. For all those young guys and to, like you said, exactly like the Mets, starting really good and on paper too. They had what made them interesting. Like I put them higher than the Giants, first time ever. They had it on paper and then they were doing it the first half of the season. So I don't think they're kind of there yet. Even I just feel like that demon is going to still curse them, that collapse last season.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. And the one thing I will say to keep in mind about the Padres, though, is that they, much like the Mets, are having a severe upgrade in manager as they ousted Jace Tingler, who I didn't know who the fuck he was when they hired him. And I said to myself, what the hell are they doing hiring Jace Tingler to be their freaking manager? Turned out to be a terrible move. They quickly righted their wrong and brought in Bob Melvin now, who a world-class manager. Bob Melvin, if you're wondering why a lot of those Oakland A's teams, didn't have that talent and were just so able to contend and be in it every year, look no further than Bob Melvin. Yeah, you got Billy Bean and a lot of those front office guys bringing in guys who we haven't heard of who perform well, no doubt about that. And they're very good at picking those guys. But don't look past Bob Melvin. Don't sleep on that guy. Hell of a manager. One of the better guys. He's been around the league for a long time. And this is the guy, too, that Yoenis Cespedes, even till his final days with the Mets, would always talk about his love of Bob Melvin and would consistently say he's the best manager he's ever met. So, yeah, definitely got to love Bob Melvin. Wanted to give Bob Melvin a little love there.
No, good for you. I think that's a great point because I always talk about him. He seems like he's got that old school baseball mentality of like just get on base, that they always play the fundamentals right. Like that's what drives me crazy when I watch the Yankees recent years. They're making base running errors and don't even know. But no, the A's always did really well with that. So I was shocked that, they are cleaning house pretty much.
Yeah, they moved on from him. So good luck to him in San Diego. And that's another reason why I'm optimistic with the Mets too, because a guy like Buck Showalter is going to really stress those little details too. So let's keep our fingers crossed that we see some good baseball like that in Queens too this year. But before we start wrapping this episode up right now, we're going to give our picks for the awards real quick before we get to the World Series. So Dan, we'll start with you. Give me your AL and your NL Cy Young Award winner.
The AL, I'm gonna guess probably just Shohei Ohtani, because I feel like this guy's one of the once a generation players that I feel like he's gonna end up getting a Cy Young to go along with that MVP.
Wow, very cool.
NL, I just have a feeling Jacob deGrom is just eager to have that bounce back season. He just looks like he is. He might end up winning a Cy Young, and I'm going to guess he might end up winning a Comeback Player of the Year award as well.
I love the Ohtani pick, Dan. Love that pick. And obviously love the deGrom pick too. So very good. Mike, how about yourself?
Yeah, Dan, two great players you picked. Ohtani, like you said, he's someone forever. Even, let's say he tanks, he's going to be a player I'll forever tell my kids about. Like an old school type of player, but I don't have either of those guys. Same thing with deGrom. Awesome. I have White Sox pitcher Lucas Giolito. I think he's going to have a big year this year. And then I have Freddie Peretta from Milwaukee Brewers. Those are my two guys. Yeah, little kind of out there picks, but I think both of them are going to be very surprisingly.
Giolito, actually, very funny. I love Lucas Giolito.
He's one of my favorite players.
Yeah, I was actually at Lucas Giolito's major league debut. And the funny thing about this, I was at his major league debut in spring training and in the regular season.
Damn, but clearly you're his good luck charm. You need to get a hold of him. Call him hey, yo, what's up your debuts?
if I was anything, I wasn't his good luck charm because he got hammered both times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right, maybe he's gonna want you to stay away because I need him to be my Cy Young Award winner.
I think he'd pay to keep me away at this point with
Yeah.
the 2 outings he had there. But I honestly I love Lucas Giolito. I love that pick. But he was the guy I had as my runner-up.
Oh, interesting.
The guy who I think is finally going to break through, and I'm 99.9% sure that he has not won a Cy Young yet. I think he's going to cash it in for the New York Yankees, Garrett Cole.
Once you said Yankees, I knew we were coming.
I think Garrett Cole, he got bested just barely by his teammate when he was in Houston, Justin Verlander. I think as long with that Yankee lineup, the Yankees are always going to score runs, even though at times the offense could be waning when it really matters. But those Yankees are going to be scoring runs, no doubt about it. I just like it. I think that this is the year that I could see him winning 20, and having and I don't know. I don't think he's going to strike out 300. I don't think he's going to have one of those crazy strikeout seasons, especially with his with the spin rate being down a little bit from the tacky crap and everything. But pitchers and players, they still find a way to do whatever they need to do to succeed. So he'll find his way. I think Cole is going to win. And actually, I'm going to go in all New York. For the first time ever, both Cy Young Awards will be in New York, but it's not the Met who you think. I'm going Max Scherzer. I think DeGrom, right? I think DeGrom is going to have a great year, no doubt about it. I think he's still going to be the Jacob DeGrom that all Met fans expect him to be and know and love. But look, the guy, he knows that his job isn't to look great for the Mets on June 9th and then not be there in September when they want to win. I think DeGrom is going to take a step back this year, and only in the sense of he's not going to be throwing 102 miles an hour on every single pitch anymore. I think he's going to realize, especially working with a guy like Scherzer, that sometimes less can be more. And okay, he might not have, as many 8 shutout inning performances or crazy things like that and having a 108 ERA through 16 starts. I don't think he's going to do that again. But he's still going to be very good. I think he's going to be among the ERA leaders. I think he's going to be in the Cy Young, conversation. But I just think a very, very motivated Max Scherzer is just going to tear the cover off the league this year. And it might be, he's 37, 38 years old. So I think this might be his last really big year where you look at his numbers and your eyes kind of pop out. So that's what that's my guess right now. Cole for the American League and Scherzer for the National League.
Very, very convincing. You got me thinking screw my picks. I'd be a believer on both of those. I was like, oh, I could work with that. I'm cool with that. New York.
I should have been a lawyer.
Yeah, right.
So as we keep moving on here right now, we'll do our MVP picks. And I can give you a little spoiler. I'm not going to be picking a Met for the MVP. It hasn't happened in 60 years. I don't think it's going to happen this year. But Dan, as we are rolling down again here. All right, Dan. So we'll be wrapping this up real soon, the next couple of minutes. So this is the end. Dan, who is your AL MVP and NL MVP?
I think probably the AL MVP. I'm gonna go with potentially Altuve.
Wow. Okay.
The NL MVP. I have a feeling it's probably going to be Juan Soto.
Wow, Juan Soto. That's a good one. I definitely like that. No doubt about that. So we got Soto coming from you. And who's the American League one again?
Jose Altuve.
And Jose Altuve. Okay, very good, very good. Mike, how about yourself?
I have another Chicago White Sox player. You would think I'm a White Sox fan, but I'm not. I have Luis Robert. I think
Ooh,
he's gonna have a big
sneaky
year.
good pick. I like it.
Thank you, thank you. And then for my NL MVP, this was super hard for me. I literally had like a whole thought breakdown. I'm going with the bold pick. I'm going with Trey Turner, but I'm going to tell you why. Because I think that's a little bit of an odd. I'm going with the underdog kind of guy a little bit. My
Mhm.
first thought was Acuna Jr., but then we had already discussed how he's going to miss some games, 2 to 3 months maybe, and which that reminded me of Yelich in 2019. He lost out of the MVP for missing about 2 weeks at the end of the season. So then I was like, okay, the voters are going to maybe eliminate him. So then I thought Juan Soto, just like Dan over there was talking about. But I think, the Nationals going to be about fifth. And even though I don't think MVP should be based on your team performance, usually, sometimes, I don't think the voters are going to pick him. So then that got me thinking, okay, if I'm thinking how the voters think, I'm like, they're probably going to go somewhere with a powerhouse team like the Dodgers. Now, for the Dodgers, you can go anyone. You can go Mookie Betts. You can go Bellinger. You can go Freddie Freeman, who just won MVP not too long ago. So that's why I was like, you know what? With all those guys, I've always been a fan of the shortstop position. Jeter definitely made me always love the shortstops. So I kind of like, let me go with the underdog, Trey Turner. So that's what I'm going with.
Hey, Luis
Yeah.
Robert and Trey Turner, two very good, very young picks, no doubt about that. I definitely can see your point of view and like both of them. As for me, I like another guy in the Dodgers, a guy who you just mentioned actually for the National League MVP. I like Mookie Betts.
Great
I
play.
think I think Mookie Betts is going to have a big year. Another guy who I've fallen in love with. He's been one of my fantasy mainstays last couple of years. So I become a big fan of Bellinger's. But Bellinger seems to have really taken a downturn the last year or two. And actually, have you seen what his numbers are for this spring?
I have not.
Coming into today, he was 1 for 20 with 17 strikeouts.
Ouch. Was he blind
So
out?
yeah, really, I think he needs to get his eyes checked, get some contacts in or something, buddy. He doesn't like that Arizona air, I guess. But
Yeah.
they gotta figure something out. They got to get him straight because he's been kind of wonky for the last couple of years. Ever since really his last great year was that um the 2019 season when he hit 47 home runs to finish third in the league behind Alonso and Eugenio Suarez.
Mhm.
So, very, very interesting stuff. But to get back to my pick, I think Mookie Betts is really going to have a big year. I think he's going to have a high average season, which is really going to take everybody by notice. And I think that's what's going to be the big thing with him. Um, as for the American League MVP, I've had a couple of different thoughts, but actually, I'm going with the team that I'm really bullish on right now, the Toronto Blue Jays. I'll be picking Vladdy Guerrero Jr. as my MVP. I think we all see the potential in this guy, and he said it. He said it himself coming into this year that last year was like the movie preview, and now this year we're seeing the real thing. And I think he's going to be the guy leading the charge. He knows how good he is. He knows how good this team is, and I think Vladdy Guerrero is going to be the MVP of the American League this year. So with that, my two picks, like I said, Mookie Betts and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So guys, I think we had a pretty good show here so far. We've only got one more thing left to do. As we're running low on time here, we're gonna do our World Series pick. Don't we want to hear who they're playing? Don't make any other picks. Let's just go World Series winner. Dan, who do you got for the World Series winner?
I have a feeling that the Mets are going to win a very close and highly contested World Series.
Wow, very nice, very nice. And Mike, about yourself?
I hate saying this, but if I had to put a pen on paper and just guess, I'll say Dodgers in 6. I always root against them. I don't want that to happen, but Dodgers in 6 games.
Yeah, if you like the Giants in any way, there's no way you're
Exactly.
you're picking the Giants because you like them. The Dodgers because you like them.
Yeah.
For me, internally every year going into the season, I'm a Mets fan. I think the Mets are going to win the World Series every year. You know, I might not pick it on my shows. I might not say it out loud, but internally, I always think to myself, okay, they're going to win the World Series this year. You know, so when I think out loud and I try to look at my nonpartisan side and I say, boy, the Mets team looks pretty good this year. I'm gonna, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna go with Dan. Mets win the World Series. I don't know how many games. I don't know who they're facing, but the Mets gonna win the World Series this year. Let's keep our fingers crossed on that one.
Hey, hopefully they prove me wrong this year too.
So just to end it, it'll be me and Dan both got the Mets. You have the Dodgers. And you know, one little interesting fact too is that since the Yankees won the World Series in 2009, it's really been dominated by the National League, the World Series. I mean, think about it. The Giants won in 2012, in 2010, 12, and 14. The Cardinals won in 2011. If it wasn't for the Red Sox winning in 13 and 18, it'd really just be dominated. I mean, aside from the Red Sox, you know, the Royals got one, and the Houston Astros. Every other year, it's been a National League team.
I didn't even think about that. So the moment you said it, it like clicked in my head. I was like, oh yeah, he's right.
All right, the National League really has been dominating over the last decade in World Series play, at least. So very, very interesting, especially that we all went for a National League team. Very interesting, fellas. So awesome show, guys. Thanks for joining me here, Dan, my co-host, as he's here every week. Michael Christadora, thank you for joining me. If you guys want to give out one last little plug before we got a call tonight, Dan, give out your plugs, buddy.
Of course, my plugs are my Twitter page. You can follow me on Twitter at Bobo103NYC. Instagram, it's Bobo718DK. And of course, on YouTube, it's one word, Daniel Kurlan. I got some videos on there. There's going to be some more down the line.
Absolutely, buddy. And Mike, give yourself a couple of plugs too.
Thank you. My regular, both Facebook and Instagram, is Mike_Christadora. And then my podcast for Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter is Critic Christadora _631. And like I said, I'm starting some new content will be coming out soon. So if you listen to all the new stuff, very shortly there'll be new entries on there.
Absolutely. Look out for Mike. Big things in this kid's future. He's a great guy. He's an American hero. So support him. Come on, let's do this. And
guys.
Absolutely. And fellas, thank you for joining me here as we wrap up. It's been a great show. Let's keep our fingers crossed for the Rangers in this third period, Dan. And let's thanks for the great show, guys. We'll see you next week. Don't forget to check me out on Twitter at Cramer New York and all of our social media stuff that you'll see at the bottom. And we'll catch you guys next time. Have a great week.